Okay, cool.
So yeah, I want to start by saying thanks to everyone who has joined, and thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to all of you and to meet you. So today I want to talk about designing for the next billion humans, and really the focus there is I think we have seen the first billion users, the first billion users join the internet, and we're expecting the next billion to come. And these billion users are coming from places that show unique problems that we need to be thinking about and solving for. So yeah, I'm just gonna go right ahead and dive in. So I'm just gonna break it into three parts of the intro, and then I'm gonna talk about understanding the customer and leveraging mobile. So in the intro, I just wanna give a bit of intro about myself, which I have already given a bit, and then an intro about really why we should be designing for the next billion users. So I thought the best way to do this was to just show you a picture and then give you a quick backstory of what was happening. So this was back in 2018, and I was still working at Kandua, the online marketplace for home services. So we had just redesigned the homepage, and we wanted to get some users in to test. But because they're contractors, their days are very crazy, and most of them are happy to come, but they never make it because they get a call to go across town. So they were never there. So we decided to go to them. So I literally drove to one of the hardware stores. I think this was Builders in Bedford. And yeah, I parked there, wrote up that sign, a year contractor free drink. It was a hot day, so I was offering contractors a free drink if they spoke to me. And I actually ended up being able to speak to about nine people, and we got a lot of good feedback. And thinking back on it in hindsight actually makes sense, because a lot of times we're testing our products, especially maybe mobile focused products, in a quiet room, in a very gentle, in a very predictable environment. But really, people use phones in very unpredictable environments. The phone is in one hand, the keys are in the other, they're in a hardware store, they're talking to someone. So it really, thinking about it back, it really gave me a sense of really how products are being used out there. They're not used in an office where it's quiet, where you can really focus. No, it's a really a brief moments of focus when they're interacting with your product. And then this picture, this is in September 2019. So I already spoke about Leroy Merlin, and for those that were not there, so the company I worked at, Kandua, was partners with Leroy Merlin and a hardware store, and they partnered there to create almost like a one experience for the customer. So customer buys their tiles, they can also get a contractor in store, pay that contractor through the store. Everything is managed by the store. So one of the systems, the sales consultants who actually spoke to the customer on the floor used was designed by us. And because it was an integration between two companies, it wasn't as straightforward. So we had to make tutorial presentations to teach them, to show them how to do it. So this is me giving one such session, and really not only did I have the opportunity to be part of designing these systems that were being used by people, but I really did a lot of interacting with the people who were on the floor, talking to the customers, talking to the contractors. So that really gave me almost like a unique perspective on how products get used. And then this is the last picture. This is in November 2019, and we're just launching a new product, and it was a new business model. Basically, it would allow customers to buy services online, like how we buy a pizza. So when you buy a pizza online, you know the price, you know what you're going to get for the service. We're trying to bring that same concept to services. So you need a new geyser installed, you just go online, there's an upfront price, the terms and conditions are specified, you know when the contractor is going to come, you know the contractor is certified. So that's kind of the system we're introducing. And we had a focus group with one of our top pros that we really trusted and worked together closely. So in that picture, that's Harry, a blind specialist, and we're just chatting about the nitty-gritties of that new system back in 2019 before it launched. So yeah, that's a quick summary of sort of my background in UX and the exposure I've had to be part of designing products, but also to really work closely and interact with people that use them. So now I want to talk about why these next billion users. Why should we really be thinking about designing for these users? So for me, I think it comes down to three things. I think one is they present really a large internet population. So if you see from 2013 to 2017, we had we had 1 billion people come online for the first time, and almost half of them were from 11 countries, which are shown in the diagram there. And what's interesting there is to see that India has right now, and I'm sure this number has surpassed already, but at that time they had 458 million people on the internet, which is more than the population of the United States altogether. So
Is it just me or did everything pause? Yeah.
okay, great. So yeah, like I was saying, a big majority of the next billion users. So we have had the billion users come from 2013 to 2017, and we're expecting the next billion to come online for the first time in by 2021. So, and a big majority of them are going to come from these 11 countries, which present really unique problems for the design space. So it's really important that we think about designing for them, because they're going to constitute a large population of people that just use the internet, who and among them are likely going to be your customers for whatever product you're working on. So, and I think the second thing is because they have unique problems, which you're going to dive into now, they need unique solutions. So I think the first thing is 70% of this population is mobile first and mobile only. So they don't have any desktop mental models, they use the first access to internet is on mobile, and it's likely going to remain mobile for a good majority of them. Most of their data is 3 times more expensive as compared to Western countries. And I can, as much as South Africa is not in that diagram, I do feel like it really mirrors a lot of these unique constraints that are presented in these markets. I think we don't have the large population to make it onto that chart, but I do think we do have users that present this exact same needs. And lastly, languages. So 73% of them live in countries that speak 5+ languages, as opposed to, if you think of the West, where it's really mainly English. So really, as designers, how are we thinking about incorporating local languages in our design? And then the third thing is really what we've seen is when we do design for these users, we end up making better design for everyone. So a good example is YouTube Go that you see there, launched in India in 2016 as an app to work with low data and unreliable connections. I think you can see there on the left, you can choose the quality you want. You can preview a video. I actually downloaded it to check it out. And you get like a really low quality GIF, really just to constrain that data usage. And you can actually, I believe, I've seen reviews where you can actually set the amount of data you want to be used by the app. So it's very interesting. But what they've seen there is now it's available in 140 countries and has over 100 million downloads. And it's suspected that a good majority of those downloads are actually out of India. So it's an example of how that innovation started as a solution for these unique users, these extreme users, but has filtered up to everyone, because everyone now realizes that sometimes you're not always in the place with the best connection, but you still also need to consume content. And how are we building for that? All right, great. So that was the intro of really why we should focus on these billion users. Now I'm going to touch on understanding your customer. So I want to talk about jobs to be done. So really the idea there behind that is that customers hire products to get a job done. So they have this constraint that's been presented in their life, and they need to overcome that. But they can't do it they can't do it themselves, because as humans we are limited in what we can do. So we hire services, we hire products to realize a better version of ourselves or of our current situation. So yeah, job to be done is a process a consumer goes through whenever she or he aims to change her or his existing life situation into a preferred one, but cannot because there are constraints that stop her or him. So I think there's a famous quote that really sort of encapsulates this idea from Henry Ford. It says, if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. So it's that idea that instead of focusing on your product and how to improve your product, in that case improving can we make horses faster, really the job that users were trying to achieve in that scenario was the same. They were trying to get from point A to point B as quickly as possible. So that job has remained consistent throughout the years, but different innovations have come to satisfy that problem, or to satisfy that job. So I want to play you guys a short video from Clayton Christensen. He's a professor from Harvard Business School, and I think he has one of the best explanations on jobs to be done I found, and I think it'll really help you guys understand the whole jobs to be done scenario. It certainly helped me. So I'm just gonna let that play now.
We decided that the way we teach marketing is at the core of what makes motivation difficult to achieve. The most helpful way we've thought of it so far is that we actually hire products to do things for us. And understanding what job we have to do in our lives for which we would hire a product is really the key to cracking this problem of motivating customers to buy what we're offering. So I wanted just to tell you a story about a project we did for one of the big fast food restaurants. They were trying to goose up the sales of their milkshakes. They had just studied this problem up the gazoo. They brought in customers who fit the profile of the quintessential milkshake consumer. They'd give them samples and ask, could you tell us how we can improve our milkshakes so you'd buy more of them? Do you want it chocolatey or cheaper, chunky or chewier? They get very clear feedback. They would then improve the milkshake on those dimensions, and it had no impact on sales or profits whatsoever. So one of our colleagues went in with a different question on his mind, and that was, I wonder what job arises in people's lives that cause them to come to this restaurant to hire a milkshake. So we stood in a restaurant for 18 hours one day and just took very careful data. What time did they buy these milkshakes? What were they wearing? Were they alone? Did they buy other food with it? Did they eat it in the restaurant or drive off with it? It turned out that nearly half of the milkshakes were sold before 8 o'clock in the morning. The people who bought them were always alone. It was the only thing they bought, and they all got in the car and drove off with it. So to figure out what job they were trying to hire it to do, we came back the next day and stood outside the restaurant so we could confront these folks as they left milkshake in hand. And in language that they could understand, we essentially asked, "Excuse me, please, but I got to sort this puzzle out. What job were you trying to do for yourself that caused you to come here and hire that milkshake?" And they'd struggle to answer, so we'd then help them by asking other questions like, "Well, think about the last time you were in the same situation, needing to get the same job done, but you didn't come here to hire a milkshake. What did you hire?" And then as we put all of their answers together, it became clear that they all had the same job to do in the morning, and that is they had a long and boring drive to work. And they just needed something to do while they drove to keep the commute interesting. One hand had to be on the wheel, but somebody had given them another hand and there wasn't anything in it. And they just needed something to do while they drove. They weren't hungry yet, but they knew they'd be hungry by 10 o'clock. So they also wanted something that would just pump down there and stay for their morning. Good question. What do I hire when I do this job? You know, I've never framed the question that way before, but last Friday I hired a banana to do the job. Take my word for it, never hire bananas. They're gone in 3 minutes, you're hungry by 7:30. If you promise not to tell my wife, I'd probably hire donuts twice a week, but they don't do it well either. They're gone fast, they crumb all over my clothes, they get my fingers gooey. Sometimes I hire bagels, but as you know, they're so dry and tasteless. Then I have to steer the car with my knees while I'm putting jam on them, and then if the phone rings, we got a crisis. I remember I hired a Snickers bar once, but I felt so guilty I've never hired Snickers again. Let me tell you, when I come here and hire this milkshake, it is so viscous that it easily takes me 20 minutes to suck it up that thin little straw. Who cares what the ingredients are? I don't. All I know is I'm full all morning and it fits right here in my cup holder. Well, it turns out that the milkshake does the job better than any of the competitors, which in the customer's minds are not Burger King milkshakes, but it's bananas, donuts, bagels, Snickers bars, coffee, and so on. But I hope you can see how, if you understand the job, how to improve the product becomes just obvious.
All right, great. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that video, but I think Clayton really tries to explain the theory behind jobs to be done and really the benefits of it. And for me, two things stood out from that video is the fact that when you do approach your customers in a jobs to be done framework, you actually realize that your competitors are not people who sell the same product as you, but potential companies or products or services that can be hired to satisfy the same job. So in that case, if they'd chosen to focus on the demographics of the people who came to the store, what time they wake up, what's their family like, what job title they have, what time do they get home, they would have never arrived to that result they did. But really, they managed to get to the result they got by really focusing on that job that the customer wants to achieve. And if you keep watching that video further, you realize that what they ended up doing was increasing the cup size so that the milkshake lasted the entire way, and they even made it more thicker so it was filling in the stomach. So it's quite clear that once they knew the job that was trying to be done by the customer, it was easy really to give them what they needed to get that job done. Right. So yeah, I hope that helped you understand that jobs to be done concept. And I wanted to give you guys here also how would you actually apply jobs to be done? So a few months back, I had an opportunity to do some research and actually apply the jobs to be done framework to create personas. So I'm not going to use that data because it was for a customer, but for illustration's sake, I chose to use Spotify as an example. So a job to be done by Spotify for the customer might be to stay focused during work or study. And really, the context there might be you're working from home, there's a lot of activity around your house, but you need to zero in. And a pain point might be finding instrumental songs, because you want to be able to listen to music, but you also don't want it to distract you from what you're doing. So sometimes that non-vocal music helps with that. Another job to be done might be to have a shared experience with friends. So what I mean by that is, imagine you're hanging out with your friends on a Friday night, and everyone is having a good time, different songs are playing, and it's most likely that a song will play that you like, and you want to be able to add that to your personal library. But maybe you might a pain point there might be saving all those great songs from your mates' braai that they had. So that means, I don't know how you would save them. Either you write them down, or you Shazam them, or you so you might need, you might have that pain point of having to find a way to remember these songs at an event that you had, at a hangout you had with your friend. So that's another job. And the last job is getting inspired and staying informed. So this could be a job also that a potential Spotify customer might have, taking a hike, but also you want to catch up on the latest. And the pain point there might be finding and saving all the best podcasts or the most popular podcasts. And really keep in mind that you should have conducted your extensive research, obviously, to understand the jobs being done, because you're not going to just arrive to those jobs to be done. You need to be talking to your customers, really understanding what they're trying to achieve. But also online, there's material on how to really conduct the jobs to be done so that you understand that job. But really, the idea here with the table is that you start from this place, this concrete place when you're building personas, of understanding really what the customer is trying to do. The context really helps to bring sort of put flesh on that job, because jobs are almost like objective. They're really these abstract things that because they represent a segment of a population, but adding that context column really helps you to sort of put flesh to what that job is. And yeah, I used this table, and you can build more, you can add more columns to it. But I used more columns with maybe obviously the information about your persona. Yes, you're gonna have to give them a name and a bit of a backstory really to bring that persona to life. But really what you have done is you've built your personas from this place of concrete information, where you really understand the different jobs that are being that are trying to be achieved by your customer and the product, and then you can then build these jobs out into personas that then you can use in your development or design life cycle. So yeah, I hope that help you guys just to understand, in the case that you want to really apply this, how you'd actually go about doing that. But yeah, yes.
Can you give in detail what exactly is a persona? Can you define that?
Yeah, so I think in my mind, a persona is a fictitious character that represents a segment of your user base. But I think the real important question there that's usually important to ask is why do you want to make personas? And I think the answer to that question really affects how you go about constructing them. But yeah, they're fictitious characters that represent the segments of your customer base. But in this case, we're saying that customer base shouldn't be based on demographics, but rather on the jobs that are trying to be achieved by the customer.
Cool, thank you.
Great. Yeah, so to continue, and yeah, anyone who has questions, please feel free to cut in. Let's chat about it. if anything comes to mind. So yeah, if you extend that and see how maybe how Spotify might have used the jobs to be done framework to solve problems. So for example, the job to be done to stay focused during work and study. I think anyone who uses Spotify, they know that they have a lot of custom playlists. So playlists for gaming, playlists for studying, playlist for even sleeping. So really, that's how you can see how they joined that problem to the solution. Now that you understand that people are trying to get focused, but they have a pain point of going through the hustle, finding all the correct songs to play when they're studying. Why not just compile a custom playlist for them that's really activity focused, and they can just tap into that. Same as for to have a shared experience with friends, they created a collaborative playlist where everyone can add songs to that playlist. So instead of having to remember the song name and search it, you can just ask your friend to add it to that collaborative playlist that you guys have as friends, that you always play from when you hang out, and vice versa. When you are playing, they can do the same, and music is just shared like that seamlessly. And the third one, getting inspired and staying informed. They also created podcast playlists based on topic and popularity. So you're going for that hike, you want to catch up on the latest news regarding Black Lives Matter. There's a podcast that just that's dedicated to that, and a list of them, so you can just tap into that. So you can see how applying this jobs to be done framework can be really used to solve customer problems. So yeah, lastly, I want to talk about leveraging mobile. And to start there, I want to talk about why take a mobile first approach first. So like really why mobile? What's this buzz about mobile and why we should focus on it? And I think for me, it comes down to these three reasons. I think mobile is ubiquitous, which really means it's everywhere. So 70% adoption in developing markets. So that means, and we were just speaking about that earlier, that the next billion users are likely to join the internet via mobile and to stay mobile. So you can imagine just the population of people connecting to the internet with mobile. And even in developed markets, 50% of the interactions on the internet happen on mobile. So it's not an option not to take a mobile first approach, because it's mobile is really everywhere. And it makes sense, because if you think about it, how much a laptop and a phone costs, I think you can buy a smartphone that works, that can connect to the internet for so much less than you can buy a laptop. And on top of that, a laptop doesn't even have functions that small phone comes with, like GPS and accelerometers and all those functions. So it makes a lot of sense. And the second thing is, because the screen is so small on mobile, you're really forced to focus, because there's not a lot of room to play around with. You really just have to focus on those most important tasks that the user needs to accomplish. So if you think about, if you're scaling, if you're trying to build maybe a desktop and a mobile version, it makes sense to start on mobile, because if you was to start on desktop, you'd probably have to, you start with this website that has all these features that you have to shrink down. It makes sense to start from mobile, where you only focus on really what's the important, and then you build it out from there. And then lastly, new possibilities. I think smartphones have various sensors, like I said, GPS, accelerometers, which allow you to tap into new functions and inputs when you're designing your product. And we see a lot of that happening with location data. I was even reading about an app that was using that sells solar roofs, and was using GPS and location data to scan people's houses and choose the one that suit best their product, and then specifically writing to those users to introduce themselves. So you can see how mobile really allows opens these new possibilities, and the fact that it's always there next to you. So it means you can actually get notifications in real time. If you leave your desktop, you leave your laptop, that's it. Even if you had even if your app gave notifications, there's not going to be anyone to see those notifications. But on mobile, it's a different story, because humans always have their mobile phone on them. So, and then I want to touch on the mobile context, really the big picture of it. And this theory comes from a guy called Josh Clark. He wrote a book called Worthy, Designing Great iPhone Apps. And really, he claims that mobile context falls into these three categories. So number one, microtasking. So when the user interacts with the device for brief but fringed periods of activities. So they just go in, they're really trying to achieve one certain thing and be out. Second is local. So when the user wants to know what's going on around them. So, you know, you want to find out where can you find the nearest pharmacy and the directions to even get there. You can see how that local context applies there. And lastly, when users are bored, so when user has nothing better to do and is looking to be entertained or otherwise diverted. And if we were to really take this big picture and connect it to our billion users, this might mean for microtasking, it's really remembering that they don't have any desktop mental models. They've never used a desktop. Most of them have never connected to the internet on a laptop. So those mental models of how things or how websites work that we have all, most of us have able to get from desktop and apply that to mobile and to figure out how things work. These emerging users don't have that. So that means that when you're designing your product or your app, you're really focusing on making those tasks intuitive and understandable to the user. Like we said, expensive data plans. So as you're designing, are you remembering that data is expensive for these users? So that means, are you avoiding having your app connect to the internet unnecessarily? Can you download information onto the device so that the device doesn't have to connect to the internet so often and using up the user's data? And lastly, unreliable internet. Really, and I think this one is an interesting one because it just happened to us. That internet can just go out, and are you making sure that your app is still functional even though there's no internet, that it still provides value to the user even if they're offline? And that really means employing a lot of different tactics, like we say, like storing local data to make sure that your app is not worthless when there's no network. But I think you still need to conduct your user research. So remember, this is the big picture. This is how to think about it when you're maybe approaching a new product or really trying to focus on a certain part of the context. But it should be it should always be backed up by user research for your actual product to really understand how your users for that product use it and the environment that they operate in. Okay, and I want to touch again on micro moments. And micro moments is really, it stems from this idea that because we always have phones with us, and there's a lot of things asking for our attention, like the phones itself, the apps, Facebook, WhatsApp is fighting for your attention on top of other things you have on the phone, on top of the other things you have in your environment. So really, it's the idea that along the customer journey, consumers are demonstrating their intent very clearly in what have been dubbed micro moments. And these are the most compelling opportunities along the new journey path. So what that's really saying is, you know, we can't keep looking at our journey as customer logs into the app, they go through this process, because it really doesn't happen like that. For most users are interacting with an app very quickly. I think the average session on mobile is about 4 minutes of whenever or whenever people use their phones. So people when they are using your app and trying to accomplish tasks, they're going in there for very short periods of time just to accomplish a certain task. And can you use a part of that thinking to design better products? And I think really what micro moments allows us to do is really think about the intent on mobile. Why do we pick up our phones? I think there are four major buckets and this Google came up with this in 2015, this idea of micro moments, and they think the first one is I want to know moments. So that's the time where you're watching TV, you learn about a certain artist, or you're arguing with whoever in the house about a fact, and you want to go on your phone quickly to verify that. Those are I know moments where you interact with your device. You have I want to go moments. So like we said, you want to go to the pharmacy, you need directions, you want to know which one is the closest. You go in there specifically to find out to find out where to go and how to get there. So those are defined as I want to go moments. Third is I want to do moments. So maybe you just a great example is maybe you're trying to bake a cake, and you want to know how to do that. You can just hop on YouTube, open a video, how to bake a chocolate cake that's very spongy in the middle, whatever the case may be. And yeah, you can go in there and you can learn from a DIY video. So those are moments that is, I want to do this moment, and where you log into your phone to find out specific data for you to achieve something. And lastly, we have I want to buy moments. So maybe you've been thinking of a new phone. So the journey might look like you log in, you check out what phones are available, what deals are there. You narrow down your search on your preferences, and then you go in one last time to say, okay, I'm going to make this purchase. I'm making this purchase, and then you make it. So overall, the intent on why people engage on mobile can be brought down to these four buckets. But as designers, we can always come up with more buckets to add to this. So these are not the only four buckets, but these are the four major categories. But depending on the product you're working on, you can have I want to share moments a lot, which if you think about it, they happen a lot in maybe restaurants. When people are eating, they're taking a picture of their food, they're taking pictures together, and most cases they want to share those or keep them. So those are I want to share moments. So you can build onto this, but the idea there is that you're really thinking about these short, brief moments in your product where it's being used. So I think to sort of solidify the concept is I want to also show you guys another example. So, and taking Spotify as an example again, to say you want to add my song to the queue. So imagine this: you are hanging out with friends, playing pool and playing music from the Bluetooth speaker. You want a song to be played, but you're not the one playing music. So you need to ask your friend to add your song to the queue. That's a micro moment right there. And if you let's see how Spotify has managed to sort of design for that micro moment. What they did is they created group session where anyone can scan that code and join a group. And instead of having to ask you, they can add a song to the queue from their own phones, even though their phone is not the one playing music. In this virtual session, but it really solves that problem of having to ask someone to add your song. Then they have to search it, they get the spelling wrong. It's such a very tedious process, and this is how Spotify has managed to sort of design for that micro moment. So yeah, group session allows anyone who joins the session to add songs to the queue, and in that way they've specifically designed for that micro moment where you're hanging out, everyone's playing music, and you want to be able to collaborate or add to that playlist. Okay, and lastly, I want to touch on using task analysis to solve problems. So task analysis is it's really the idea that once you understand what jobs are trying to be accomplished in your product, in each job there are tasks that are involved in that job for the customer to reach their goal. And the idea is that you take a task, you break it down, and the really two approaches there to task analysis is, so you do your research, you now understand what users are trying to achieve, and now and you also understand how they do those tasks. So you're trying to break down that task. So you can either break it down into hierarchical task analysis, which means breaking it into subtasks. So how the user does it step by step. Or you can do a more cognitive task analysis where you're really focusing on the parts where decision making is involved, problem solving, judgment, memory, where the user has to remember something or make a judgment. So I think to also demonstrate the value of task analysis, I've put up another example. So say we have a task here, search a song on Spotify, and that's your task in your product, and you try to break it down using this task analysis method. So it might look like, okay, I open the app, I click in the search navigation, I click the search box. So and I do this from actually trying it on Spotify. So you click the search box. You can either type your song in the keyboard or click the camera icon and then scan a code, or you can type it and then select it. So using that hierarchical approach, you can see how you could reduce tasks right here, because there the user is they click the search in the navigation, but they also have to click the search box. You could make it such that once they click the search in the navigation, automatically that keyboard comes up and they can type. So that's one way to sort of use that analysis to actually make tasks easier for users. So in this case, you're looking for parts where the system can take the load from the user. So the user is doing a lot of steps. Is there a way we can shrink some of these steps so that they're handled by the system? Because if you think about what we're talking about, the mobile context, it's a very like disrupted world. It's you know, you're using your app, but someone is calling you. So it's a very like highly disrupted world. You're getting notifications from the phone. Even if you are in a task in another app, you can get disrupted by a notification from another app. So it's a very highly disruptive world. So that means that the less the user has to do to accomplish whatever task you have in the app, the better. So if you can eliminate the steps it takes, the better, because they have to make less clicks, which means less focus they have to give, which means they're likely gonna they're going to find your task very easy and intuitive to use, because they pretty much have to do, they don't have to do much. And then if you were to look at it from a cognitive perspective, you can see that, when they do click the search box, we present them with two options. Either they can type the song or click on the camera icon. But really, if they click on the camera icon, they need to now find the code from another phone or from the TV to scan, which will probably allow them to get close or stand up. If you think about typing there, you kind of have to remember, sometimes you don't always remember the artist, song, or spelling correctly. So you might know the song, but you actually don't know how to spell it correctly. You end up getting less result. So you can see how you can try and reduce cognitive load there by maybe introducing introducing voice search. So voice search really would allow the user there to instantly search with their voice, and the system takes that load again of processing what the user is trying to say. And with Google Assistant, that work has already been done. So you can offload that work from the user of having to type and remember the song name by just allowing them to actually say it, and then the system figures out which song they want. So this is just an example of how you can apply that task analysis to really make the task easier and solve problems ultimately for your customer. Yeah, and again, remember the user's perspective. So when you're breaking down your tasks, so you figure out the tasks that users do, you know the sequence that they do. Remember that you're not biasing that task towards how you think they do it. Remember, it should always be how the user does it, and the way to know how the user does it is by talking to the user or observing them. So it just means that you have to back up all your work with the research from your real customers. So yeah, that's the end, and just want to run through the key takeaways I think that we spoke about in the presentation. I think the first is the next billion users are almost here. It's imperative to design for them. So we know the next billion are coming online in 2021. I mean, we don't know if COVID means people come online sooner or later, but we know the next billion is very close. And if you want your product to be solving problems for this billion, you really need to be thinking about the unique problems that they present to us as designers. We need to understand the customer job to build disruptive products. So I think that's the key there, to really focus on the user, not your product. So we go a lot in our research trying to, how can we improve this? How can we improve this about our product? But really the focus is on the product. But if you take that focus onto the user and really try and understand what they're trying to accomplish, and as we have seen that example, it's much easier to come up with a solution that really solves that problem. And in most cases, you come up with disruptive or novel products, because if you think about it, today you can buy a bus ticket online, but 10 years ago you couldn't do that. And 10 years to come, you're likely not going to be buying bus tickets online. There'll be another way to do it. But what's remained constant across there is the job of people trying to move from point A to B as quickly as possible. And really the job remains the same, but how that problem is solved has changed because of obviously advancements in tech. So you can think of Uber. It's not really solving a new problem of getting from point A to B, but they really used cutting edge or latest technology to solve this age-old problem. So seeing your product in that lens really allows you to build solutions that are disruptive, that really change the way maybe people are used to doing things, because you and your team have really understood really why users hire your product, why are users coming to our product. Really, this is what they're trying to do. Can we find better ways to help them accomplish their job? Because really that's what the users want. They want to get that job done, and if you can build a better way to do it, even better. And then lastly, the mobile platform is changing how humans use technology. We should also change how we approach mobile design. So like I said, a lot of mobile context is super important on mobile, because phones are now always next to us, and we use them slightly different to how we use laptops. You think of laptops, you log in a couple hours, you log off. A phone, you can interact with it 10 times in an hour, very short periods, but you're doing these different things. And it's important that we're thinking about that context and micro moments and task analysis to really drill down and solve that problem for the user from a mobile perspective. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, thank you very much for listening. And if any questions, feel free to shout. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that.
Thank you, Tawanda. I'll